Oh, it's just standing 442. Your opinion matters. We are here outside DW Stadium. Wigan have gone into administration in the last 24 hours. The first league club, first professional league club to go into administration after the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, we're still in the midst of that pandemic. The restrictions have not been eased as of yet. Obviously, as you can see, it's quite like a ghost town around here today, and it's just hope Wigan can get out of this plight that they're in. Apparently, there's 12 prospective buyers waiting to take over the club, but they need to show bank statements of £10 million at least. It's crazy seeing as though the takeover was happened at the beginning of June. Dave Whelan, as you can see behind me here, was the owner of Wigan from 1995 till 2015. So it's quite a shame, really. I mean, obviously Wigan have been around since 1932. I'm sure we can get out of this plight as soon as possible. There's 6 games left in the league. They've got an away game against Brentford this weekend. Hopefully they can pick up 3 points. 12-point deduction from the EFL. Should it be sanctioned? I mean, I'm not too sure with the EFL because obviously they signed off the takeover 4 weeks ago. So questions need to be asked there, I feel. We'll cut now to me at the studio. Got the first interview today. Adam Pendlebury, who does the Wigan podcast, and obviously down in the studio. Hi, Adam. How are you?
Well, last 24 hours, bit of a sort of whirlwind, really. I'm well in myself, health-wise, but devastating news yesterday about the club. And we met for the podcast last night, and it was like a therapy session, really, where we kind of talked through our woes.
I mean, I'm assuming 24 hours before that, before the administration came into fruition, I'm assuming you had no clue about it, and nothing was even mentioned about it. So I'm assuming it was a devastating blow for you this morning. Well, yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tuesday night, pick up another win against Stoke City. Pretty much secures our championship status. Very happy. Go to bed happy. Start work in the morning, and then just sort of late morning, the news starts to filter through. You naturally think at first, is it a hoax? Is it a joke?
Yeah.
It's not April Fool's Day. But then it clearly then starts coming through on Twitter through all the news outlets, and obviously it's real. And obviously it was a major shock to everybody. There was no hint of this occurring. No issues really that you'd normally expect, like players not being paid. We were negotiating new contracts. We actually extended a couple of deals as well. And the club was running as normal. It was doing all the things that it should be doing in a period of time when, you know, there is no direct fan engagement through the turnstiles. It was doing engagement in every other way through video channels, social media, having pop-up fans at the games, cardboard cutouts.
Yeah.
Everything was as normal, but obviously lurking in the background was this decision to put Wigan Athletic into administration. And looking back now with hindsight, we've had 4 weeks since the new ownership, the ownership changed hands, and now with the benefit of hindsight, clearly that spelled danger for us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you are the form team of the Championship in 2020. You've won the last 3, not conceded a goal, and unbeaten in 9. So obviously it's a devastating blow, and I mean. Based on this form and based on obviously the 6 games left, is there a way out of this? Is there a way out of collecting enough points to get yourself out of relegation?
Well, the way I look at it, it's Project Restart. It was a 9-game season. And we had a point advantage over the bottom 3.
Yep.
It's now a 6-game season, and we're on -4. But we're on -4 going into it with known form, which we wouldn't have before Project Restart. You know, we've won our last 3 games behind closed doors. We know that we can handle that very eerie atmosphere. The football has been superb. built on a defence that hasn't conceded in almost 11 hours, so over 7 games at this level is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
If the players are not adversely affected by what's happening in the background, then we are more than capable of picking up the points that we require, because some of the other sides down there are frankly in an absolute playing mess. Yeah. Clearly we're in a administration mess, but on the pitch we look organised, we look good.
Yeah, looking at the fixtures, obviously you've got 3 games at home, 3 games away. Home games include Queen's Park Rangers, Hull City, and you're away at Charlton as well, and I think you can do quite a lot of business in those games in terms of points. And from an outside fan looking in, I firmly believe if you stay on the form you're on, I reckon you can retain your status as a Championship club, despite obviously what's going on in the background.
Yeah, I mean Brentford obviously on Saturdays, because they're probably the only side who's living with us in terms of level of performance and form at the moment. So that would have been tough anyway. But then the other 5 games that are left after that, you'd look at it and you'd say, before the administration, you would have backed us in all of us, because even the last game against Fulham, the likelihood is that Fulham will be readying themselves for the playoffs and not wanting to really pick up any key injuries. So would have probably played a slightly weakened side for that game. It doesn't look like they can get automatic, and it doesn't look like they'll slip out of the playoffs. So, and the other 4 games are, we've got QPR, who are pretty much on the beach. And then the other ones are all against sides who are scrapping with us. Barnsley and Charlton are scrapping really well and picking up points. And obviously Hull City are really struggling, no win since the turn of the year. Yeah. So you've got to target those, and those 3 games and maybe a point against Fulham might be enough, because there's a lot of sides then who would have to pick up decent points for us to be in the bottom 3 at the end of the season. But it's just all about the psychology for me. Can they handle being 4 points adrift rather than, as we were at the start of Project Restart, 1 point ahead? It's just the psychology of it, really. And we don't know about that. We'll probably find out a lot more on Saturday with what the level of performance is. Win, lose or draw, the performance level on Saturday is absolutely crucial.
Yeah. I mean, the news coming out on social media at the minute is this at least 12 parties involved with potential negotiation in the takeover. Obviously, the administrators have said, you need 10 million up front, or at least proof of 10 million to actually go forth with negotiations. Obviously, that's a positive. What's your initial thoughts on that?
Well, it's a good start. I mean, what we're hearing from the administrators is quite positive. However, I mean, I guess to an extent it does have to remain positive, because ultimately we do need to get extra capital into the club. We essentially need new owners. Having 12 interested parties is a good start. You wonder to yourself whether a lot of that will depend on what division we're in next season. So, this makes the next 6 games even more crucial. And as you said, that sort of the administrators don't want to be passing it on to a party that's basically going to put us back where we actually started. So the actual security in terms of the money that would be required, which actually, I mean, it's a lot of money to you and I. It's a lot of money to many a club, but in comparison to some of the other sides who've slipped like this in recent years, we're not talking hundreds of millions. So maybe there is scope there. We've got a decent infrastructure. We've got a good training facility, good ground, youth academy, and saleable assets as well within the club. Quite a few good players who we could sell on at a reasonable fee. I'm sounding like I'm doing the administrator's work. I'm sure they're much better at it than I am. But I don't think it's necessarily the proposition that, if you look at a situation like Bury last year, which was absolutely terrible for them, what they actually went through. And clearly we can empathise even more with Bury now as a result of that. But it was a different scenario. You know, they didn't really have any assets as such. You know, so clearly indicated with the not being able to fulfil those fixtures at the start of the season as well. And Bolton survived, and I think they came from a much weaker position. It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating we've ended up where we are. We have been relatively responsible in the way that we spent. You know, we haven't gone mad. We've been relatively prudent, but you know, losing £8 or £9 million a year, even being prudent, clearly requires investment.
Yeah.
The Whelan family did that for 23 years. But once that came to an end, we needed to replace that level of investment just to stand still. And if that is pulled for whatever reason, and we don't know what that reason is yet, you know, I'm sure it will come out soon. But whatever the reason is, that funding now needs to be found in order to get us back to a position where we can just stand still. And then let's have a go and let's see where it can take us. But survival is the key at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there'd be a lot of finger pointing and blame, you know. But in terms of the EFL, I mean, obviously they've got to do their fit and proper test before someone takes over the club. And now they're obviously going to incite a 12-point penalty. Should they share part of the blame in this?
Well, you've got to look at it, haven't you, and think to yourself, this is 4 weeks ago that this decision was made. Well, ratified finally. I mean, it was quite a long period of time where they were doing the work behind the scenes. November, I think it was first mooted that there was going to be a takeover. But you've got to look at it and think to yourself, well, you know, where's that assurance that they've got the funding for the remainder of this season and next season? I can't see how they've managed it. And if they've ticked the box, then there's a problem with the box that needs to be ticked, in my view. Because if it's just a case that you just have some funds in a bank account at a particular time, there's no guarantee that that's going to be there on the following day.
Okay.
So in terms of the regulatory framework of the EFL, it needs seriously looking at. I mean, over the last 2 or 3 years, we've had loads of clubs in trouble. We've had lots of issues with owners. Leeds United saga. Other examples as well that we could cite. There was dispute about the broadcasting deal 18 months ago as well. They're there as the custodians to look after the clubs of the Football League, those 72 or 71 clubs as it is at the moment.
Yeah.
And there are, in my view, some serious governance gaps that need to be filled, really, because we are entering a period now where the climate is inherently difficult for all clubs. So you've got to make sure that at least at the league regulatory level, the Football League level, that there is a framework in place that works for the clubs, because it just seems ridiculous, doesn't it, that we get a 12-point deduction on the basis of a 4-week ownership that hasn't benefited us in any way, shape or form.
No, not at all. I mean, it is also crazy the fact that obviously the difference between the Championship and the Premier League is night and day, because obviously Chelsea have just shelled out 2 signings for 100 million, and Wigan just need 10% of that just to survive. Well, I say survive; it's the wrong choice of word, but to stay in operation, should we say?
Yeah, to get back to solvency. Yeah, it's the whole story, though, is it? I mean, how much would it have taken to save Bury? You know, that's the thing, isn't it? And it's a tough one, really. I mean, you could argue about more money needs to drip down, but also I do think that at the time, football finances in general terms, I think we need to get our house in order. Predators seem to be circling around, really looking for these clubs. There's too many examples of it now just to say it's unlucky for football. Too many examples, and interestingly, a lot of examples in the Northwest as well.
Yeah.
Macclesfield, Wigan, Bury, Bolton, Oldham, Port Vale. Why is it round here as well? Is it issues with maybe attracting investment from the south? I don't know. So they're having to go overseas. Don't know the answer to that, but it does seem more than a coincidence that disproportionately the northern teams seem to be impacted upon by the financial climate.
Yeah, I think this north-south divide is quite evident these days in terms of football teams. And it's a shame, really, because obviously I regard top-level management as as the Prawn Sandwich Brigade, and I think there's more of them south of Birmingham than there is north of Birmingham, and I think the hard working man of today up north goes to the football to have a drink with his mates and have a pie and watch the game, whereas down there it's more of a social event for the Instagram famous and all
corporate,
yeah.
I mean, to be honest, that's one of the good things about Wigan. It's really become a family club from the Premier League days. Bringing lots of younger fans in, women and children getting involved with the club. It's gone from that sort of grotty sort of image of a football club as it was like in the 80s to sort of get into a nice family club that does a lot of stuff in the community. And that's the sad thing. It's really sad for us, the fans, but the impact on the community trust, all the good employees that they have, the people, the staff, the players, the coaches, the media, really good people. Some of them have been associated with the club for a long, long period of time. And, that you've got your heart goes out to them really, because it's not just a job for them. It's more than that really. They've got a passion for what they actually do. So we've just got to hope and pray that we can get a resolution to this really. And like you said before, there are some positive signs. It doesn't look all doom and gloom. So we've got to kind of try as fans to stay positive as well. And maybe it's for a later date to actually go for the blame game. I think at the moment it's a case of let's survive and then maybe let's look at it later. And I don't think it's just Wigan issue. I think it's, like I said to you before, I think we've got to look at it from a governance perspective. Like Wigan's MPs got involved as well. I think Culture, Media and Sport Committee obviously were grilling the Premier League chief the other day. So, it's not too far removed, is it, to then suddenly say, well, I'm sure they're going to want to speak to the Football League as well. What the hell is going on at the moment?
Yeah, it's crazy times. But obviously it starts this weekend with you away at Brentford, and hopefully Paul Cook and the players can get it together and stay on this run that you've been on. So
well, we're all together. That's one of the things, through the season. Maybe we've had some discussions. I've always been a pro Paul Cook, big fan of Paul Cook, but I think to an extent this has really united us. Everybody now is behind the club. All the fans are behind the players and the management. To go and do this now, and the players are showing the right signs. The social media, so it looks like they're up for it. And let's give it a go. That's the only thing we can control at the moment, really. The players, all they can do is perform on the pitch. Ultimately, the other stuff, they've just got to leave it for the administrators to work out.
Well, like I say, fingers crossed, and surely there's a silver lining to this cloud, eh?
Let's hope so, yeah. Fingers crossed, yeah. I always believe. That's the motto at Wigan, believe.
believe.
Yeah.
Right, cheers, Adam. Thanks for your time today, mate, and
You're welcome.
Godspeed, and take care.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Bye-bye.